Imagine for a moment that you are standing at the edge of a great forest. The trees loom tall and dark before you, their branches intertwining to form a canopy that seems impenetrable. The path ahead is unclear, winding its way into the shadows. You feel small, perhaps even afraid. But I tell you this, you are braver than you. In this journey we call life, we often find ourselves facing such forests. They may take the form of daunting challenges, seemingly insurmountable obstacles, or periods of deep uncertainty. We stand there, our hearts pounding, our minds racing with doubt. Am I strong enough? We ask ourselves, do I have what it takes to venture into the unknown? Let me assure you, with every fiber of my being, that you do. You possess a courage that runs deeper than you can fathom, a wellspring of strength that has been with you since the day you drew your first breath. Think back to your childhood for a moment. Do you remember the first time you rode a bicycle without training wheels? The exhilaration mixed with fear as your parent let go and you wobbled forward on your own. That was bravery. Or perhaps recall the day you first went to school, clutching your lunchbox, your little heart hammering in your chest as you stepped into a classroom full of strangers. That too was bravery. You see, courage is not the absence of fear. It is not some lofty ideal reserved for heroes in storybooks or great leaders of nations. No, courage is the quiet voice inside you that whispers, I will try, even when every other part of you wants to run and hide. As we grow older, the forest we face may seem darker, the paths more treacherous. We may be called upon to make difficult decisions, to stand up for what is right in the face of opposition, to persevere when all seems lost. But I tell you this, the bravery that carried you through your childhood challenges has not abandoned you. It has grown stronger, deeper, more resilient with each passing year. Consider, if you will, the humble acorn. When it falls from the mighty oak, it is small, fragile, seemingly insignificant. But within that tiny seed lies the potential for a towering tree that will one day stretch its branches to the sky. Your courage is like that acorn. It may seem small and inadequate in the face of life's great challenges, but it contains within it the power to grow into something magnificent. Now you might be thinking, but surely there are those who are naturally braver than others, those who fear nothing and charge headlong into danger without a second thought. To this I say, true bravery is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. It is the gardener who tends his flowers even as storm clouds gather on the horizon. It is the teacher who faces a classroom of unruly students day after day, believing in their potential. It is the parent who works 2 jobs to provide for their family, sacrificing their own comfort for the sake of their children. These acts of everyday courage may not make headlines or earn medals, but they are the very fabric of a life well lived. They are the threads that, when woven together, create a tapestry of remarkable strength and beauty. Let us consider for a moment the great heroes of history, the men and women who stood up against tyranny, who fought for justice, who pushed the boundaries of human knowledge and achievement. Do you think they never felt fear? Do you imagine they never doubted it themselves? Of course they did. They were human, just like you and me. But what set them apart was their willingness to act in spite of their fear. I am reminded of a story from the war, when young men barely out of boyhood were called upon to face unimaginable dangers. There was a lad in my regiment, no more than 18, who confessed to me the night before a particularly fierce battle that he was terrified. His hands shook as he cleaned his rifle, and tears glistened in his eyes. But when dawn broke and the order came to advance, he was there beside me, moving forward with steady steps. That, my friends, is true courage. You see, bravery is not a fixed quality that some possess and others lack. It is a muscle that grows stronger with use. Each time you face a fear, no matter how small, you are exercising that muscle. When you speak up in a meeting despite your racing heart, when you extend a hand of friendship to someone different from yourself, when you pursue a dream, even though success is not guaranteed, these are all acts of bravery that make you stronger. Now, I can almost hear some of you protesting, but you don't understand. You might say, my challenges are too great, my fears too deep. My dear friends, let me assure you that I do understand. I have faced my own dark forests, my own moments of paralyzing fear. There have been times when I felt utterly alone, when the path ahead seemed too daunting to contemplate. But in those moments, I have learned to draw strength from a wellspring deeper than my own limited resources. For you see, true courage often comes not from believing in ourselves, but from believing in something greater than ourselves. Whether you find that in faith, in love, in a cause you believe in, or in the bonds of friendship and family, this belief can carry you through the darkest of times. Think of it this way. When you stand at the foot of a mountain, looking up at its towering peak, it's easy to feel overwhelmed. The climb seems impossible, the summit unreachable. But if you focus only on the next step, and then the next, and then the next, eventually you will find yourself standing at heights you never thought possible. The same is true of facing our fears and challenges. We need not conquer them all at once. We need only have the courage to take the next step and then the next. Before we know it, we will look back and be amazed at how far we've come. Let me share with you a secret that has served me well throughout my life. Imagination, properly employed, can be a powerful ally in cultivating courage. When we face a challenge that seems insurmountable, our minds often run wild with worst-case scenarios. We imagine failure, humiliation, disaster. But what if we were to use our imagination differently? Imagine, if you will, that you are the hero of your own story. Picture yourself facing your fears with grace and strength. Visualize yourself overcoming obstacles one by one. See in your mind's eye the person you could become if you embraced your innate bravery. This is not mere daydreaming or wishful thinking. It is a powerful tool for shaping your reality. You see, the stories we tell ourselves have a profound impact on our lives. If we constantly tell ourselves that we are weak, that we are not good enough, that we cannot possibly succeed, then we create a self-fulfilling prophecy. But if we choose to tell ourselves a different story, a story of courage, of resilience, of untapped potential, we begin to live into that reality. This is not to say that positive thinking alone will solve all our problems or eliminate all our fears. Life is not a fairy tale, and real challenges require real effort to overcome. But by cultivating a mindset of courage, by telling ourselves stories of bravery, we create a foundation from which we can face those challenges head-on. Now, let us talk for a moment about failure. For many of us, the fear of failure is what holds us back from embracing our true courage. We are afraid to try because we might not succeed. We are afraid to speak up because we might be wrong. We are afraid to love because we might get hurt. But I put it to you that failure is not the opposite of courage. It is a vital part of it. Show me a person who has never failed, and I will show you a person who has never truly lived. For it is in our failures that we learn our most valuable lessons. It is in picking ourselves up after a fall that we discover just how strong we really are. Consider the inventor in his workshop, trying time and time again to bring his vision to life. Each failed attempt is not a defeat, but a step closer to success. Or think of the child learning to walk. How many times does she fall before she takes her first confident steps? Does she give up after the first tumble or the 10th or the 100th? No, she perseveres, and in doing so, she discovers her own strength. You, my friends, are no different. Each time you face a fear and come out the other side, whether you succeed or fail, you are growing stronger. You are proving to yourself that you can survive, that you can endure, that you are indeed braver than you know. But courage is not just about facing our own fears and challenges. It is also about standing up for what is right, especially when doing so is difficult. It is about extending a hand to those who are struggling, even if we are struggling ourselves. It is about speaking truth to power, defending the vulnerable, and fighting for justice. In my travels, I have seen acts of breathtaking courage performed by ordinary people in extraordinary circumstances. I have seen mothers stand up to armed men to protect their children. I have seen students face down tanks in the name of freedom. I have seen communities come together in the wake of disaster. Neighbors helping neighbors with no thought of reward. These acts of courage remind us of the heights of which humanity is capable. They show us that within each of us lies the potential for greatness, Not in the sense of fame or fortune, but in the sense of moral courage and compassion. You might be thinking, but those people are special. They're not like me. I assure you they are exactly like you. They are human beings with the same fears and doubts and insecurities that we all face. The only difference is that when the moment came, they chose to be brave. And that, my friends, is the great secret of courage. It is always a choice. We cannot choose whether or not we will face challenges or feel fear. But we can always choose how we respond to those challenges and fears. So we can choose to run, or we can choose to stand our ground. We can choose to be silent, or we can choose to speak up. We can choose to give up, or we can choose to keep going. Every day, in ways both big and small, we are presented with opportunities to be brave. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is simply to get out of bed in the morning when our world seems dark and hopeless. Sometimes it's reaching out to a friend who is hurting even when we're not sure what to say. Sometimes it's pursuing a dream that others have told us is impossible. Whatever form it takes, know this. Every time you choose courage, you are changing the world. You are pushing back against the forces of fear and despair. You are lighting a candle in the darkness, not just for yourself, but for all those around you who might be inspired by your example. For you see, courage is contagious. When we witness acts of bravery, whether grand or small, it awakens something within us. It reminds us of our own capacity for courage. It challenges us to be better, to be braver, to reach for heights we might otherwise have thought impossible. Think of the ripple effect that your courage can have. The colleague who sees you stand up to an unjust policy might find the strength to do the same. The child who watches you face your fears might learn that it's okay to be afraid, as long as you don't let that fear stop you. The friend who witnesses your perseverance in the face of setbacks might find the inspiration to keep pursuing their own dreams. You are braver than you know, and your bravery has the power to change lives, not just your own, but the lives of countless others who might be touched by your courage. As we near the end of our time together, I want to leave you with a challenge. In the coming days and weeks, I want you to look for opportunities to be brave. They need not be grand gestures or heroic acts. Start small if you need to. Speak up in a meeting when you would usually stay silent. Reach out to someone you've been meaning to apologize to. Take a small step toward a goal that scares you. Each time you do this, take a moment to recognize your own courage. Celebrate it, no matter how small it might seem. For each of these acts is a victory, a step toward becoming the person you are meant to be. Remember, courage is not about being fearless. It's about feeling the fear and choosing to act anyway. It's about recognizing that you are stronger than your doubts, more resilient than your insecurities, more capable than you ever imagined. You are braver than you know. You always have been. And with each passing day, as you choose courage again and again, you will discover just how true that is. So go forth, my friends. Face your forests, climb your mountains, confront your fears. Do it not because it is easy, but because it is hard. Do it because in doing so you will discover the depths of your own strength and the heights of your own potential. But let us delve deeper into this notion of facing our challenges. You see, when we confront our fears, we do more than simply overcome them. We transform them. We alchemize them into something precious and powerful. Consider, if you will, the process of refining gold. Raw gold ore, when first extracted from the earth, is rough and impure. It must be subjected to intense heat, must be melted down and reformed before it can shine with its true brilliance. Our fears and challenges are much the same. When we face them head-on, when we allow ourselves to be refined by the heat of adversity, we emerge stronger, purer, more radiant than before. This transformation is not always comfortable. Indeed, it can be downright painful at times. But it is in this discomfort that true growth occurs. Think of the butterfly emerging from its chrysalis. The struggle to break free is what gives its wings the strength to fly. If we were to cut open the chrysalis thinking we were being kind, we would doom the butterfly to a life earth. So too, must we be willing to endure the struggle, to push against the boundaries of our comfort, if we are to discover our ability to soar. That's how some of you may be thinking. But what if I fail? What if I face my fears and discover that I'm not strong enough after all? My dear friends, let me assure, there is no such thing as failure in this context. There is only learning, growing, becoming. Even if you do not achieve the outcome you initially desired, you will have gained something far more valuable, the knowledge that you had the courage to try. You will have expanded the boundaries of your known world, pushed back the frontiers of your capability. Think of the great explorers of old, setting sail into uncharted waters. They did not always find what they were looking for. Columbus, seeking a route to India, stumbled upon a new world instead. Yet would we say he failed? Of course not. His courage to venture into the unknown opened up possibilities beyond imagining. Your journey of courage may not lead to the discovery of new continents, but it will certainly lead to the discovery of new continents within yourself. New reservoirs of strength, new depths of resilience, new heights of potential that you never knew existed. Moreover, consider this. Every time you act with courage, you are not just changing yourself, you are changing the world around you. Your actions ripple outward, touching lives in ways you may never fully realize. Imagine, if you will, a pebble dropped into a still pond. The ripples spread outward, reaching far beyond the point of impact. Your courage is like that pebble. When you choose to be brave, when you face your fears and challenges, you create ripples of inspiration that can touch countless lives. The colleague who sees you stand up for what's right in a difficult meeting might find the strength to do the same in their own life. The friend who witnesses your perseverance in the face of setbacks might be inspired to keep pursuing their own dreams. The child who watches you face your fears might learn that it's okay to be afraid, as long as you don't let that fear stop you. You see, courage is contagious. By choosing to be brave, you give others permission to be brave as well. You become a beacon of hope, a living testament to the power of the human spirit to overcome adversity. But let us not fall into the trap of thinking that courage is only about grand gestures or heroic acts. Sometimes the greatest courage is found in the small, everyday choices we make. It takes courage to be kind in a world that often rewards cynicism and selfishness. It takes courage to remain hopeful when circumstances seem bleak. It takes courage to forgive those who have wronged us, to extend a hand of reconciliation when it would be easier to cling to bitterness. These quiet acts of bravery may not make headlines, but they are the very stuff of which a noble life is made. They are the threads that, when woven together, create a tapestry of remarkable beauty and strength. Now, I can almost hear some of you thinking, but surely there are limits to what courage can accomplish. Surely there are some challenges too great, some fears too deep to overcome. To this, I say, the only limits that truly constrain us are the ones we place upon ourselves. Consider, for a moment, the 4-minute mile. For years, it was considered a physical impossibility for a human being to run a mile in less than 4 minutes. Experts declared it couldn't be done. But on May 6, 1954, Roger Bannister proved them all wrong. And do you know what happened next? Within just a year, 3 more runners had also broken the 4-minute barrier. Once the mental barrier was shattered, what was once thought impossible became achievable. Your courage has the same power to shatter the barriers of what you believe to be possible. When you choose to be brave, when you dare to face your fears and challenge your limitations, you expand the realm of what's possible not just for yourself, but for all those who witness your courage. But how, you might ask, does one cultivate this kind of courage? How does one build the strength to face fears and overcome challenges? The answer, my friends, lies in practice and perspective. Courage, like any other virtue, grows stronger with use. Each time you choose to be brave, no matter how small the act, you are building your courage muscles. Start small if you need to. Speak up in a meeting when you would usually stay silent. Reach out to someone you've been meaning to apologize to. Take a small step toward a goal that scares you. As you practice courage in these small ways, you'll find that your capacity for bravery grows. What once seemed terrifying becomes merely challenging. What once seemed impossible becomes difficult but doable. But beyond practice, cultivating courage is also a matter of perspective. It's about how we choose to view our challenges and ourselves. When faced with a daunting task or a frightening situation, It's easy to focus on all the things that could go wrong. Our minds are remarkably adept at conjuring worst-case scenarios. But what if we were to use our imagination differently? Instead of fixating on potential failures, what if we were to imagine ourselves succeeding? What if we were to picture ourselves facing our fears with grace and strength? This is not mere daydreaming or wishful thinking. It is a powerful tool for shaping our reality. You see, the stories we tell ourselves have a profound impact on our lives. If we constantly tell ourselves that we are weak, that we are not good enough, that we cannot possibly succeed, then we create a self-fulfilling prophecy. But if we choose to tell ourselves a different story, a story of courage, of resilience, of untapped potential, we begin to live into that reality. This shift in perspective doesn't mean ignoring the potential risks or challenges. It means approaching them with a sense of capability rather than defeat. It means asking yourself, how can I? Instead of stating, I can't. Remember, courage is not the absence of fear. It is the assessment that something else is more important than fear. So when you face a challenge, ask yourself, what is at stake here? What might I gain by being brave? What might I lose by giving in to fear? Often you'll find that what you stand to gain, growth, fulfillment, the joy of overcoming, far outweighs the temporary discomfort of facing your fears. Now let us address another vital aspect of courage, the courage to be vulnerable. In a world that often equates vulnerability with weakness, it takes tremendous bravery to open ourselves up, to show our true selves to others. But vulnerability is not weakness. On the contrary, it is perhaps the most accurate measure of courage. To be vulnerable is to be authentic, to be real in a world that often pressures us to present a polished, perfect facade. When we have the courage to be vulnerable, to admit our fears, to ask for help when we need it, to express our true feelings, we create space for genuine connection and growth. We give others permission to do the same. And in doing so, we discover a strength far greater than any armor of pretense could provide. As we draw near to the close of our time together, I want to leave you with a final thought. You are braver than you know. You always have been. And with each passing day, as you choose courage again and again, you will discover just how true that is. But remember this. Your journey of courage is not meant to be traveled alone. We are all in this together, each of us facing our own forests, climbing our own mountains. Look around you. Extend a hand to those who are struggling. Accept help when it is offered to you. For in sharing our courage, in supporting each other's bravery, we create a force far more powerful than any of us could muster alone. So go forth, my friends, with courage in your hearts and hope in your souls. Face your fears not because it is easy, but because it is in facing them that you will discover the fullness of who you are meant to be. Embrace the challenges that come your way, for they are not obstacles to your journey, but you are braver than you know. And the world is waiting, oh how it is waiting, to witness the magnificent unfolding of your courage. Step forward then into the great adventure that is life. Be brave, be vulnerable, be authentically you. For in doing so, you will not only transform your own life, but will light the way for countless others to do this. As you embark on this journey of courage, remember that each step you take, no matter how small it may seem, is a victory. Celebrate these victories, for they are the building blocks of a life lived with bravery and purpose. Perhaps today, your act of courage will be to speak a kind word to someone when it would be easier to remain silent. Or maybe you'll choose to pursue a long-held dream that you've been too afraid to chase. So whatever form your courage takes, know that it matters. It ripples outward, touching lives in ways you may never fully comprehend. And when the path grows difficult, for it surely will at times, remember this: the challenges you face are not punishment, but opportunity. They are the forge in which your character is tempered, the crucible in which your strength is refined. In those moments of doubt, when fear whispers in your ear and your courage seems to falter, recall the words of the psalmist. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil. Draw strength from this. You are not alone in your journey. The same power that has guided countless generations before you is with you. Still stand tall, dear friends. Face the world with your head held high, your heart open, and your spirit unbroken. For you are more than your fears, more than your doubts, more than any limitation others may try to place upon you. You are a bearer of light in a world that often seems dark. You are a force for good in a world that desperately needs it. You are braver than you know, stronger than you believe, and more capable than you have ever imagined. Let's go forth then and live courageously. The world awaits your unique brilliance, your indomitable spirit, your unwavering bravery. And as you step forward into the great unknown, know this: your courage has the power to change not just your own life, but the very fabric of the world around you. Be brave, be true, be you. For in doing so, you become a beacon of hope, a testament to the indomitable human spirit, and a living, breathing example of the transformative power of courage.